We're at the lathe. We're going to do a quick run through just to look at why we use collets. Here I've just turned up a really quite simple little test shaft. Down the bottom here, because I've got old imperial collets, I've got a 1/2 inch diameter shaft here, and then I've just turned this larger diameter piece just to clean it up, really make it nice and smooth, something that we can run a DTI on and get an accurate read on. First of all, I'm going to put it in a collet, and we're going to have a look at how much run out we get on that. Then afterwards we're going to try it in a 3-jaw chuck and have a look at what we get there. The key thing is how many times can I take something out and put it back into the work holding device without having to readjust my setup to keep my accuracy. What we're looking at here is retaining concentricity, and collets really are your friend here, so they are worth getting to know. So here's my little collet setup. I've taken the chuck off. You can see I've got a threaded chuck on here. We've got an adapter ring here, which has a number 3 Morse taper on the outside, which fits into the shaft that actually holds the chuck. And then sitting inside of that is a little collet. I've got a drawbar in the back. It's a piece of tube with a thread on the end of it. You don't really need to see it. It's a mess down there. Pulls for the donkey. Basically what happens is, and I can operate it without anything in, if I push the drawbar out, you can see it's pushed the collet out. As I just do the thread up on the drawbar, you can see the collet is being pulled in, and as it's pulled in, because it's on a taper, it's gripping down and it would grab hold of the component. So next thing we do, we're just going to open that back up again. Keys with collets, and this is going to seem a little bit laughable considering the general mess and lack of a clean paint job of my lathe. However, the key with collets is cleanliness. We need to make sure that the outer surfaces and the inner surfaces of the collet are spotlessly clean. Make sure you use a nice clean, dry, lint-free rag when you wipe them out, so that there's nothing that's going to get in the way and upset the stability of the collet once it's holding the item. Same again with the material that we're going to be mounting, so we make sure that that's clean, and we're just going to slide it in. I'm not going to go right to the end, give myself a bit of clearance here, no particular reason. I'm just going to nip it up by hand. Don't need to go massively tight, and that's then got a nice good grip on the piece of material. Okay, next thing we need to do is take a measurement of it. I'm going to get the DTI into position, and then we'll take a reading of the run out, and then I'm going to take it out, put it back in again, and take another reading. Not going to be that easy to see, but now taking the machine out of gear so I can just rotate it by hand. And this is an old lathe. It was pre-Second World War, and as I rotate that, I'm getting around about 1/2 thousandth of an inch movement. So what we're now going to do, take it back out again, put it back in, and see what we get. So we'll move the DTI out of the way, in gear. Remember to just tap the end, that just breaks the seal on that you get from the taper. We've definitely got our piece out, and then just going to put it back in again, at the same kind of position. I have a tendency to just give it a little twist, just guarantees if there's any dirt or anything on there, it will clean it up, snug the collet up. So we'll bring the DTI back in. Always best practice just to lift the plunger as you bring it into contact. You don't know, something might have moved the setup a little bit, and it could catch and cause damage to your clock. Because I've moved it and my setup is a little bit sketchy, it's just gone off of 0, but we just re-zero it. In actual fact, it doesn't matter. We don't really care what the numbers are particularly, we're just counting the divisions. So back out of gear, and then I'm going to rotate it, and yeah, that same kind of figures. About 1/2 thou showing up on there, and it's pretty effortless. You take the component out, you do whatever it is you need to do, you can put it back in the same position and you can continue machining. The only other method that you can use to really guarantee that, well, there's two readily available methods. You can turn between centres, which is a lot more setup, or you can use a 4-jaw chuck, and a 4-jaw chuck will allow you always to zero back in again, but you've got to go through that setting up procedure every time. Here with the collet, if it's clean, serviceable, good condition collet, you can swap and change really easily without too much in the way of setup. I always like to just check with a clock, just make sure you've got that repeatability. Never assume. You might have burred something up, you might have got a little bit of contamination in the chuck at some point when you removed or replaced the component, so it's always worth checking. If it's a little bit out, just take it apart, give it a clean, put it back in again. But in terms of reliability, when you are turning the same dimensionally sized components again and again and again and again, there is nothing that beats the collet chuck for speed, reliability and repeatability. Let's just give it a go in a 3-jaw and see what we get in terms of those results. Oh, even the little ones aren't light. Make sure she's snugged home. Okay, 3-jaw fitted. Zip it out of gear so it'll rotate nicely. Here's our same old piece. Just going to pop it in the 3-jaw using the same 1/2-inch diameter, spacing about the same 1/2-inch diameter for the shaft. Evenly done up. Bring the DTI in. And in that instance, I'm seeing, yeah, 4 thousandths of an inch. That's the high spot there. That's the low spot there. Then take her out again. Make sure that's clean. Put it back in quite randomly. And now, well, actually, I'm off the clock. That's no longer touching. So it's at least 10th thou out. If we go to the high spot, which is about there, zero it. That's 9th thou that's indicated, and it's not touching. That's why it's not moving. We'll bring that in. Try not to make too much of a hash of this. There we go. High spot. Actually, low spot is there. 10, 15th thou. So a massive jump, and we've not changed anything. I'll do it again. In fact, what we'll do is we'll undo it, try and keep it in roughly the same position. Hardly moved it at all. And now we're 7th thou. Now look, the 3 jaw is the workhorse. It's what we use all the time because it's convenient, and as long as you don't take the material out of here, you can have concentric cuts right the way along your component. Where it becomes tricky is if you take something out of this. There isn't the adjustability in this. There's not much I can do with this other than keep fiddling it until I get the lowest number. If I need to take it out and reposition it and I need to keep concentricity, what I'm going to have to do is put a 4-jaw chuck on here and then clock it in every time I take it out and put it back in again. Or, for the ultimate ease, set up and use a collet. So repeatable jobs, you're doing them over and over again, exactly the same size material, into the lathe to have an operation performed on it. It's a no-brainer to set up and use collets because it will actually cut your time by half. If you're doing anything more than 10 runs of something, easily the best option to do is to use a collet chuck.